Hello and welcome to BeadsJar. My name's Billy, and for today our project is this Mediterranean wave bracelet. It's made up with the Half-Tila beads and the beautiful Miyuki seed beads. And we've attached a lovely little antique gold clasp to match in with the beads used in the design. I hope you enjoy the project. So we're going to make our wonderful twist Half-Tila bracelet, and these are the components we're going to be working with. So we have our fire line, which is the 8-pound fire line, our precision scissors, and the large-eyed needles. I've also got a antique gold lobster clasp and 2 culottes and 2 jump rings, these beautiful rope design beads, these matte Miyukis, the beautiful iris Half-Tilas in matte, and these fabulous size 8 seafoam Miyukis. So I'll show you how we're going to progress with that one. So I've pre-cut a metre length, so 4 metre lengths of my fire line, and I've added a knot, so just a straightforward knot, and I did 2 knots here. And I've got my culotte threaded as well, and that's going to come up around the knot to hide inside. So the first thing I'm going to do is to just remove the excess thread above this knot. So taking my scissors, so I've got the 4 strands and my knot, and then I'm just going to get as close as I can above that knot. And then I'm going to take the culotte up towards the knot. So the hook should be facing away from where your beads are going to be threaded. So you can see the knot sitting nice and tidily inside this culotte. And I'm just going to use a basic pair of flat nose pliers to get this end together. So I'm just going to prep all my fastening before I start my threading. So that's the culotte, it's sealed together and the knot's secure inside. And I'm going to take my lobster clasp, this one's jump ring's already been attached, and I'm just going to hook that onto the culotte. Now I find if I hold that on the edge of my fingers with the jump ring facing down, I can get my pliers so that they're on either side of the hook, and then I'm just going to gently tease that in to seal that together. So there's a tiny gap there, so I'm just going to squeeze a little bit more, and that's all connected, and there's no way the jump ring can escape out of my culotte. On the opposite side, I'm just going to prep my culotte with the jump ring. So I'm just going to take that jump ring, pop that on, and again tease that over, like so. That will connect now to the fastener. So that section's all pre-prepared for me, so I can just start my weaving and then I can finish the end off. So I've now got my 4 strands in my fire line, okay, and we can start our process. So I'm just going to separate 2 of the fire lines away from the 2 others, okay. This is a bit of a funny one to start with, but it does get lots easier as you go on. So I've got 2, and I'm going to get to the end of those, and I'm actually going to pop one of the large-eyed needles on this section. So we're going to go up through with both strands, and I'm just going to pop that like there. And then I'm going to take my first beads, which are the 2 Miyukis in the matte finish. So I'm just going to pop 2 of those onto the needle, and then I'm also going to use 2 of the seafoam Miyukis here. Okay, so that's going to start my weaving process. So I'm just going to take that back all the way to the clasp. And I'll show you this section. So that's the fastener, and I've got my 2 strands, and I've gone through with those. I'm going to take my hand now with that 2 threads, and I'm going to take the other 2 up on this side and put a new needle. So I've got 2 needles I'm working with here. Okay. And do the same, and with the same beads on this section as well. So on this second needle, we're repeating that pattern. So we're going to put our 2 seed beads and our 2 seafoam beads as well, and take that down to our fastener. So at this section we have 2 strands with the 4 beads on and 2 strands with those 4. So we've got 2 separating like so. Next, what you want to do is go back to the top row, and onto this one we're going to add one of the Half-Tila beads. So you're going to go through 1 hole and then add a seafoam bead in between. So we've got 1 tiller and a seafoam bead, another tiller, and another seafoam, and then another tiller. So we're going to have 5 tillers in total, and that's 4 seafoam beads in between. Like so. And I'm going to let them go all the way down to the fastener. Right. Now just before we move on to threading that through, I need to go back to my second needle, and I'm actually going to remove one of the strands from that needle. So I'm just going to now have 1 single strand threaded through the actual needle. Now the reason for this is because the 4th strand is actually going to secure our metal beads in place. So I'm just separating them off. Okay, so we've got 1 strand separate here. If you wish, you can sellotape that to one side so that it doesn't get in your way. I'm now going to use my beading needle, and I'm going to go through the row of Half-Tilas, but I'm not adding the seafoam beads in this section. So however is most comfortable for you to carry this out, I'm just going to try and get it to sort of lay it flat, and then going through all of those. Make sure you don't miss out on any of them. Okay. So I'm just going to pull that all the way through. And basically, when we've done this without the seafoam beads, that then creates a curve. So when we get to the end, it'll pull all round and make a beautiful shape with the beads. So my thread is on the bottom row now, so I've still got the second needle in my hand, and then I'm going to take up another seafoam bead. So I'm going to take up another seafoam bead, and then I'm going to go through my next 5 tillers, Half-Tilas. Right, so I've got my 5 on that section. Lay that down so you can see. So we've got 5 tillers. So we've got our next section, and this was on the second needle. So we've just threaded them on. I'm just going to make sure my needle is okay and the thread's going back that way. And then I'm just going to take that down to the other beads. Okay. So you can already start seeing how it's going to curve round. So I've still got the second needle, and I'm just going to place that to one side. And then I'm going to pick up the first needle that we started with. Always check you've got both of the strands through. I have just lost one from there, so I'm just going to replace that inside. So I've got my 2 strands, and this time I'm going to come through again with no seafoam beads through this section. So I'm just going to take that through the half-tillers on the opposite side and out through the bottom, and then I'm going to pull that thread nice and taut. Catching a few of the little seed beads on my way, but that's okay. So I just pulled them threads through. Just flipped a bit, so I'll just get that back in order so you can see how it's starting to progress. Okay, so whilst I've still got my first needle in my hand, I'm going to thread the next section of beads. I have dropped another thread, so please excuse me while I pop that through again. I've got them back on, and then we're doing the 5 tillers again, just as we have done. So 1 seafoam and then your tiller beads with the seafoam in between. Five, and we're going to go down to our beads, like so, and then put that first needle to one side and pick up the second one. This one does just have the single strand, and then we're going to go back through the tillers, and you're just going to continue with that threading method. And then I shall move on to the next section to show you how we add our metal beads in and how we finish off the fastener on this one. So I'm just bringing that thread through, and like I say, you can start to really see this curve coming on, and then the beads are going to sit in between like so. So we'll move on to that next section now. Okay, so I've continued with the threading, and now you can really see this beautiful snake shape forming with the weave because of the half-tillers and how we've operated the seafoam ones in between. So that's it, moving all the way along. And now I'm wanting to add these metal beads in between the bottom row. So as we started, I'd made you come away with one of the threads. So I'm now going to take my needle and I'm going to remove the threads that have gone all the way through, because this is one of the end ones at this section. So now I've got those 3. So I've got 3 strands coming out of the end here. So I'm going to go back to the beginning spot and take up that single thread, and I'm going to put a beading needle on this one. I've got my beading needle here, so I'm just going to quickly thread that. And secure that down. Okay. And then going to pick up one of the matte Miyuki seeds, and I'm going to use my metal bead as well, and then another Delica on the end. Okay. Now my thread's coming out from the second seafoam bead, and I'm just going to go straight across and through this seafoam bead on the same side. So just straight across with the needle and through. And I'm also going to take the needle through the Tila bead, the Half-Tila, and the other seafoam. I'm just going to position that and bring that in so you can see where this bead will sit. And that's creating this really interesting form where the wrap goes over the top. Now my thread's poking out from this seafoam bead here, and I'm actually going to take the needle up through all these and out of the end seafoam on this side. So just make sure you get through all of the beads on this point. We don't want to miss any. So I've come out of the seafoam bead on that side. So as you can see, we've now secured that metal one, and then the threads run all the way inside these like that. So I'm going to pick up another matte seed bead and my metal bead and another matte seed bead here. Okay, and pop them down, and we're going to go through the opposite side of the seafoam bead. So through, and your Tila and your seed bead. Pull that through. And then we're going to run up to the next seafoam bead. You can twist and move your hand position. Don't feel you have to just continue with it flat. Just make sure you get all the beads, that's all. And we're just going to keep progressing with that same method until the end of our bracelet, and then I'll get to the fastening part. So we've now managed to put all our metal beads in between the seafoam and the Tilas. So we've created our beautiful path-like creation. So I've still got my single strand here, so before we finish the end, I'm just going to recuperate the two together. So the bottom row on this one, so that strand I need now, and I'm going to take that back as we started. So I've got these two, and I'm going to re-thread them together. So with my beading needle, so I have those two on there. And before I take up the second needle again, I'm going to put two seafoam greens on this needle and two of the matte seed beads above that. And then that's going to go all the way down, bringing those strands in together on this section. And pulling that in to finish our pattern. So that was those two strands, so I'm just going to pop them to one side now, and we're going to do the same on the top section. So I'm going to take my beading needle, the second one, and thread 2 seafoam beads onto both of those strands, and 2 above that. You may be wondering why I even had 4 strands in total, but it just keeps the reinforced and gives you more structure. That's why I've chosen to work with the 4, not just 3 strands to start with. Okay, I've dropped a thread here, so do be wary of that. So one has slipped out. So I'm just going to start that section again because we seem to have lost one of the strands. So sorry about that. I'll just go back. So I'm making sure I've got both now together and through the beading needle. And then threading. This time I've definitely got both. I'm just going to take that down and along those 2, like so. And then we're going to take all 4 together. Make sure our pattern's laying correctly. So I've got both needles here, and I've got the end of our fastener, so we'd already connected this calotte, and I'm going to take one of the needles through first, bringing those strands up and out, and then the second one, so through the hole at the bottom of the calotte, up and out. Okay. I'm now just going to take off the threads from the needles because we don't need them at this point. So we've got now all 4 strands through the calotte and facing the right way, and I'm just going to literally pull against that. It might not look like it's sat correctly at the moment, but when I remove the fastener we can see our pattern has returned on here, and then we're going to secure this end. So I've got all 4 strands, and I'm going to make a loop over my finger, so a nice loop, and then I'm going to take these ends back through the loop just have a bit of patience at this point. So we've made our knot, and then we're going to sit that inside the calotte. So just using your fingers, you're just going to work that knot down and as close in to the calotte as you can. You'll see I'm pulling on each strand as well to really tighten them together to secure my knot. That's one, and I'm going to do a second one as well. So create your loop, take your ends through, and I've done the same knot again on top of the other one. So I'm quite happy that that's now well secured, and I can just use my scissors to remove the excess thread that's above it. So I want to get nice and close. If you really wish, you can put a dab of nail varnish or glue on the knot to ensure that it's safe, and then that is going to sit inside our pliers, and we're just going to close the two ends together, and that completes the fastening on that side, and that finishes off the bracelet quite beautifully all the way along. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. Leave any comments or feedback. I'd love to hear from you, and if there's a project you'd like to see, let me know. Bye.